At dotCMS, we're really excited about the new lightweight endpoint resource feature that we're building into dotCMS 5.1 that should be releasing in the first quarter of 2019. So let me just show you the structure of how you'd have to build that custom lightweight endpoint. The whole purpose of this is to make sure that front-end developers can build custom lightweight endpoints using only velocity. Inside application directory, you'd have to place a folder named exactly API VTL, and then you could name any resource that you wish down here inside of that folder. And then these are going to be all the files that need to be specifically named in this way to then call all of your CRUD operations, right? So your CRUD operations could be a get, they could be a patch, delete, or to create you can use either put or post. If we take a look at both the put or post, which I'm going to show you a form that's using this post, it only is applying a workflow action ID, and then we're taking the saved content and then just creating a little map between the saved, the action ID and the map of the content that we're submitting, and then using this new tool .json.put to insert that JSON object into the content there. So that's going to be our post, and we'll see the same exact content in the put. The only thing that the put is expecting, since this is a complete update of your content, is that it have an identifier of the content that you're updating. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the form that is going to be doing a post. Our form, here we'll just look at the create form what we're going to use from the page. And so here you see we're setting the data object to the right host, and we're going to submit to the structure name employees. And then here is the queue to call that resource. Now here, whenever you're actually calling the REST API resource, you need to, in the URL, set it /API /VTL and then / the name of your resource. You can't put it all together as in the folder on the back end of the browser. And then you put your method. Right? So what method are you going to use to submit the content? That could be either a post or a put, delete, patch, and we're going to go through all of those. Right? So then this is going to submit our content and create the new content object. And here's just our simple form doing the submit. Nothing crazy. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to submit my son's name here. And I'm going to go ahead and submit him into the system. Then we'll go ahead and try the put. So I've got him back. He was created. We'll go to the put, and we will see him created here on the back end as well. So we look at our employee listing. Now we've got him, but we don't have all these other fields. So we're going to submit the complete object again, supplying the first name and last name over again, just by reading the ID out of the URL. So if we look at where this form is, we can see what methodology it's using by simply looking at that page and then looking at the code and seeing how it is actually doing the put. We're just doing a request.get parameter, setting that to employee profile, and then here I am setting down here, this is key to doing the put. You have to supply the identifier this time because you're resubmitting the exact same object to update the entire content object. Once again, we're calling our resource and we're just doing the type is put, right? So we'll add the rest of our fields here. So now we'll update that and then take a look at our content here on the back end and see that the rest of those fields now get updated. So we could take, if we just hit the resource itself, that'll give us a complete list. This is coming from our get VTL. We could hit the resource with an ID, and that's the ID of the content we just created, and that'll give us that one single content object. Or we could actually pass a parameter for formatting in here with our get, and either get XML, or we could type in JSON and get the JSON return for the complete content listing, or we could leave everything else and it would default to JSON, right? So how is the get handling all of that? And all it is doing is it's sensing whether path param is set. And whenever you call that resource, that's just automatically knowing whether there is an identifier at the end of the URL. And then it's just doing a .content.find, grabbing that identifier, setting that to the employee list, which is going to give me a map of just that one employee. Otherwise, we're doing a .content.pull of that employee by last name, sorting by last name. Then we're building here our formatting by either saying we're going to, if there is a format passed and it happens to be XML, then execute the do a dot parse or an include of the application API VTL employees XML employees VTL, or just get the JSON VTL. So if we exit out of there and then we look at the JSON VTL first, this is using a new JSON tool. So we're setting result list equals an empty map, and then we're getting that employee list that's called, either it's one single employee or it's a complete employee list. And then we're setting this little content map, setting person equals the fields to the content, and then adding the department to it, and then setting all of that, and then using our .json tool here that's created to automatically create the JSON. So we didn't have to handle formatting, we didn't have to do anything to create the JSON output. We're just applying that result list and the employee list, right? Doing the put. And we also have this little .json tool will also accept the parameter .cache, and you can determine a number of seconds that you want your response cached for. Gives you a little control on that cache being hit. Or if we pass the parameter for XML, we're manually just creating the formatting and wrapping that formatting around. We're still looking at the same employee list, and then we're just building, either one single employee or we're building the whole list, providing the XML wrappers. So then we can take a look at the delete. Actually, I think we can take a look at it here on this page, right? So on this page, I've provided this little delete action. Our delete.vtl is really, really simple. It has just got a different workflow action ID and the workflow action ID content delete. Find that path param again, get that identifier, and then fire the action ID. And that action ID has to be a delete action. Once again, where do you find these workflow IDs? My publish ID is here for all the other actions, and then my delete, which is on every single step, right, has that ID, right? And that's where I'm getting those inside that get and delete and post VTL. So I can simply, fire that delete. I just don't have a return page set up for that, but we will see that little delete action fired, and we no longer have Gabriel on the back end, right? Now, if I only want to update one particular piece of content, but I don't want to do a put and submit the entire content object again, I can do a patch. So here I'm going to get that ID for this piece of content, and then let's take a look at what the patch is going to do. You can see our patch VTL here, which is going to set an action ID. I believe this is a publish once again, but this time it is going to use this patch method, which is only going to grab what is being set and update the content. So it is not going to upload the entire content object. It's only going to add and update specific fields that are being sent. We dive in here. We are setting here this patch path equals API VTL employees, and then we're adding the identifier. Now, whenever we call this path, here's where we're supplying that complete path with the identifier at the end and calling that method patch. We're doing an update of only the specific fields that we send. So even though the content has other fields set on it, so let's just update the email. So I'm just setting that one email, and then I'll set this phone number, and then maybe I'll also update this to human resources. Okay, and we'll submit this to management. But we're just updating those fields. I'm going to submit, and then we'll see it should not overwrite the title. I'm not even submitting the job title. So I submit, it updates that piece of content. And then whenever I refresh, she should have a new email, but you can see we did not submit the title. That's not changed. The email is updated. If we go into the piece of content, everything has been updated about that piece of content. The phone number's been updated, except the fields that we did not submit. So that is our patch. Those are all of the CRUD operations that we have already in all of the VTLs inside of this new Lightweight Endpoint resource. We hope you enjoyed the new feature and make the most of it as a part of our new either no-code or low-code initiative for future development for dotCMS.